Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here with another video. Today I will be talking about 2025 fashion trends, and then I will be sharing 14 knitting patterns that I think you can knit to kind of recreate these fashion trends. Now this was a little bit tricky to do research for, and I used a bunch of different resources. I will have all of those linked down below if you're interested in just reading about it or just doing some more research yourself. And the difficult thing was that all of those resources kind of said something different of what the 2025 fashion trends will be. And I tried to find as much overlap as I could and then created 8 fashion trends based off that. Then also all of the knitting patterns that I've chosen for this video are size inclusive. So I will not be talking about the measurements or anything. This video is going to be a little bit more quicker than usual. And I think that's all that I wanted to share. And all of the sweaters or patterns that I've mentioned will also be linked in the description. Now you can also find me over on Instagram at @mippythelabel. I am a knitwear designer, so if you're interested, then I also have some knitting patterns to sell on Ravelry, etc. And without further ado, let's get started with the video. So the first fashion trend that I will be talking about are pastels. So some sources were talking about buttercup yellow, which I thought was a very pretty color, and there are definitely some yarns that you can try to find in that color. But I also saw a lot of sources talk about aqua and powder pink, which I thought was very pretty. So I will just insert some pictures on the screen of yarns that I found that are really nice. I'm pretty sure Knitting for Olive and also Sandnes Garn will have some of these colors, because these are some brands that have the most extensive colors in my opinion. And of course, playing with the color of the yarn is probably the easiest way to get across a knitting trend. And then another fashion trend that is very popular also at this moment is actually animal print. So this one is a little bit more tricky. There are a couple of patterns on Ravelry that you can knit animal prints, so by doing intarsia or stranded color work. But there's also a yarn that I personally have in my stash that you can use to knit leopard print, which is super fun and exciting. So I will also have a picture here on the screen. And that is also another super easy way to create a leopard print garment without having to knit intarsia or do some kind of color work. And then the next fashion trends that I will be talking about are more so the shapes and the design elements that some of these fashion items have. So the first fashion trend is sportswear or athleisure, which is basically just a trend where you're wearing your gym clothes or your stay-at-home clothes outside. And so this trend features a lot of hoodies, shorts, like polo shirts, even the little pleated skirts that are very like when you're playing tennis type of aesthetic. So I've chosen 2 knitting patterns that I think are very nice for the athleisure style. The first one is the Snow Day hoodie by Bright Wool. This pattern is knit with an Aran weight yarn on 6mm needles. And I thought this was really fun. It also has quite a subtle puff sleeve, which I think is very nice. And of course it has a hood, so it is very athleisure and sporty. But I still think it's very wearable and it's not like overdone and overly sporty. Because I do think with all of these trends come and go. So I think the best way to go about it, especially when you're knitting and creating slow fashion, is to take subtle inspiration from it and not go all overboard. And then the other one that I've chosen are the Perfect Knit shorts by Originally Lovely. It's knit with a DK weight yarn on 3.75mm needles. Then on their photos they actually have a matching top, which I thought was very cute, but I couldn't find it on their Ravelry or on their website, so I'm not sure if it's a pattern that they released. But I do think this could be a really fun thing to knit, to have their shorts pattern, and then you could just have basically any type of other t-shirt or tank top pattern and kind of create a matching set. I think that's very cute to wear just lounging around at home. But also then if you just wear like a nice cardigan or like a jacket on top, then you can definitely wear it outside as well. And I really like these shorts in particular because they have a little scoop at the hem, which I thought was a very nice detail. And I really like that these are very simple, so they don't have a drawstring or anything. They're very minimalistic and basic. Then the next fashion trend is workwear or office wear, and especially leaning towards the masculine side, so wearing very low waist and oversized tapered trousers, but also waistcoats, blazers, of course just like regular poplin shirts. All of those things are very workwear and very trendy, especially a lot of oversized silhouettes, but then also combined with things that are a little bit more form-fitting. So the first knitting pattern that I thought was very nice for this trend is the Zoe shirt by Kadri. This is a really nice and simple vest. This is knit with a sport weight yarn on 4mm needles. And I thought this one in particular was very nice because it's a little bit more form-fitting, which I feel like most knitting patterns that I come across are a little bit more oversized. And I thought this one was nice and like fitted with a v-neck, very athleisure. This one actually also kind of suits the sportswear style. For some reason they kind of tend to overlap, because I do think like a polo shirt is also quite business wear and a pleated skirt, but they also match the sportswear style. And I can definitely imagine this shirt in particular worn with some pleated trousers and some ballet flats or some nice loafers. And I think that will look very elegant. And then the next pattern that I've chosen is also a polo type of shirt. It has quite a unique name. It's called the CP04 polo shirt by Minimi Knit Design. This is knit with a DK weight yarn on 4mm needles. And I really love that this one was actually sleeveless as well, but then it doesn't have any button closure or things in the front. So you can wear it on its own. I think it's very nice, like how they have styled it here with a skirt. But you can also wear it layered. Then it has a very subtle rib texture and the color is also quite big and oversized. And I just think it's a very beautiful pattern and very classic and timeless. And then the next knitting pattern that I've chosen is a very fun one and really different from anything that I've ever seen before as far as knitting patterns go. And this is the Lulu jacket by Le Pool. And it also has a matching skirt, which is super fun. This is mostly a garter stitch jacket and it has a very unique like button details in the front with also, not button details, I'm talking about pocket details in the front with buttons and also a button closure. And it just totally looks like a blazer, and I think that is very really impressive and a really fun knitting pattern. This is knit with a sport weight yarn on 3.5mm needles. And especially worn with the matching skirt, I think this is a very fun pattern to make. Definitely something that looks very fun when they have it knit in a bold color like this one. But if you were to knit this in more of a plain color, I definitely think you could wear this out to your work as well. So if you're looking for something that is a little bit more special and definitely something that is unlike anything you have ever knit, then I think this is a really good pattern to try out. Then the next fashion trend is Boho chic. So the bohemian style is having a comeback, which honestly for me, the bohemian style was never ever really gone. Yeah, I really like the bohemian style, like flared sleeves and big billowy dresses and skirts and fringe, just everything about the bohemian style I think is very cute. But in particular right now it's having a comeback with a romantic and chic twist. So having a lot of lace and frills and ruffles. So of course I have chosen some knitting patterns for this, and this was very easy for me to do because I just love this sense of style. I think my knitting patterns also kind of fall in this category. But also a knitwear designer that I really love in particular and that I've been following for a while is Vert and Rose Knitwear. So one of her patterns that she has is the Juicia sweater, and I'm actually wearing that one right now, and it has this beautiful flared sleeve with some lace on the bottom. And I was a tester for this design and I have knit a couple of other patterns from her as well, and I think she is a really great designer. So the Juicia sweater was a very quick knit because this is knit with a bulky weight yarn on 7mm needles. But I think this one really combines the bohemian and the romantic essence into one, and it's not overly complicated because the rest of the sweater is just stockinette. But then this just adds a little bit of fun to the knitting experience as well. And then the next pattern I especially love as well. I would love to knit this maybe one day. This is the Frou Frou sweater by Camille K, or also known as Mesemil on Instagram, whom I also love. I don't think I've ever knit one of her patterns. I'm not entirely sure, but I love every pattern that she releases. Like, she really cannot go wrong. She never misses. And this sweater is just as amazing. So this is knit with a sport weight yarn on 3.5mm needles. And it has just a beautiful lacy frill all around the front and the back neckline. And then the rest of the sweater is very form-fitting and knit in stockinette. And this you can easily style to look very western and bohemian by wearing it with a long flowy skirt, or even like overalls on top would be very cute, or some flared jeans. And I just love this knitting pattern in particular. I think it's a very good one. And then the next pattern I've chosen is from a pattern designer that I didn't know about yet. But this pattern is called the Boheme Crop. And I think this is just super fun. This is knit by a pattern designer that is called Boho Chic Fiber Co. Which honestly, that name could not be more relevant to this knitting trend. So this is knit with a fingering weight yarn on 3.25mm needles. It does have quite a big scoop neckline, which usually I'm not really a fan of that. But I think for this trend and this sweater in particular, like also the pictures here are taken at the beach, I think it could be a very nice summery sweater. You can even wear it like a little bit off the shoulder and wear like a strappy dress underneath it, and again like a flowy skirt or shorts. I really like the lace that it has on the sleeves. The sleeves are also a little bit flared, and then on the sides there is some like I think broken rib texture. And all in all, I just think this is a beautiful sweater. I did have a look at some of her other designs and they were equally as beautiful. There were some really nice cardigan and sweater patterns as well. So I would definitely check out this knitwear designer. Then the next fashion trend was tulle layers. So wearing literally like a tulle ballet skirt or like a mesh t-shirt and wearing something underneath, because tulle is of course very see-through. This is a little bit of a difficult knitting trend to create, because tulle is a specific type of fabric. So we're not going to be able to create that fabric, but I'm thinking that if you knit something with a single strand of mohair, then it's very easy and possible to recreate this fashion trend. So the first knitting pattern that I've chosen is the Sheer Lily top by Praline Lin Designs. This is knit with, of course, a lace weight yarn on 4mm needles. And I really like that this one has little puff sleeves and it just looks very beautiful and elegant. It's also very cropped, but I think you can just easily layer it. And I really like how they started here with some pleated like jean trousers. And this is just a really easy way to recreate this trend. And then another pattern that I really liked is the Phantom Fuss by Park Williams, which is also knit with a lace weight yarn, but this one is actually knit on 6.5mm needles. And this one is a little bit different because this one has a v-neck and some flared sleeves. So this one I feel like is a little bit more bohemian, whilst the other one was a little bit more romantic. So depending on what you're feeling, then you can decide which pattern suits you better. I think this is also a really fun trend to kind of play around with what you're wearing underneath. So if you're feeling a little bit more fancy, you could even wear a very beautiful lingerie piece underneath. Or you could wear a bohemian strappy dress and then wear a top like this, kind of mix the trends together, or wear a tank top and some tailored trousers like we saw with the Lily top. And I think this is especially one that is very timeless and fun to try out. Then the next fashion trend is fringe and suede. So this is again a little bit more Western, like we have also been seeing, I think, in 2024 and probably the years before that. A lot of people are wearing Western boots. And this is of course also a trend that is a little bit difficult to create with knitting, because how are you going to knit and recreate a suede fabric? That is not really possible. But I did find two knitting patterns that have some fringe in them that I think are very nice and Western looking for this trend. So the first one that I've chosen is the fringe bag by Loopy Mango. And Loopy Mango actually had a lot of fringe knitting patterns, so if you're looking for something else, then definitely check that out. This bag is knit with a super bulky yarn on 10mm needles. And this is just your classic knitted bag. I feel like a lot of the knitted bags that I've seen are bucket bags that have a drawstring. So this one also has that. Then of course it has a very fun fringe. On the pictures it's a little bit difficult to really look at the bag because the pictures are taken quite zoomed out. But I think it's a nice bag, and of course, oh no, there aren't any projects on Ravelry. So there's not a lot to go off here, but if you're feeling risky or up for it, then this could be a nice pattern to try out. And then the next one that I've chosen is for the Hayward cropped coat, which I've never seen a pattern like this before. This is a really exciting, very bohemian Western type of pattern. And this is a design by Two of Hands, knit with a, I don't know, doesn't say the yarn weight, but it's knit on 15mm needles. I don't think I've ever knit anything on 15mm needles, but I think the yarn that they used is a very fuzzy type of yarn, and that will kind of create the fringe texture. So you're not going to make the fringes yourself, I think, though I'm not entirely sure. But this is really fun, and I think it's also a very thick fabric, so that's probably why they call this one a coat. So you can technically wear it outside if you wanted to. I absolutely love also how they styled it in these photos. It's very Western looking with some flared jeans and a big belt with a buckle. That looks very cool. This again is very Free People inspired, I think. Definitely something that you could see in their store. So this again goes for multiple fashion trends. And I think it's a very cool pattern. And then the final fashion trend that we have is Sailor Chic. So this is just very classic sailor stripes, mostly blue and white, but it can also be cream and white or black and white, or yeah, I think those are the most typical sailor stripes. But then also the sailor collars are very trendy and in. So the first knitting pattern that I've chosen is the Sailor Soft by Anne Vensel. This is knit with a bulky weight yarn on 5mm needles, and I chose this pattern in particular because it has a very unique and different kind of stripe, which I thought was very cool. Then it also has a cute little split hem detail at the bottom and a bigger scoop neckline, which I also think suits this style a little bit better than having, for example, like a turtleneck or something like that. And then the final knitting pattern that I've chosen is the Winterlandia pullover by Olive Knits, and I've chosen this one in particular because this one really has that sailor style collar, which is kind of hard to find, but I did find this pattern. And this one is knit with a fingering weight yarn on 3.5mm needles, and it also has some very beautiful I-cord details. So I'm just imagining now that if you were, for example, knit this in like a navy blue color and then to have those I-cord details in cream or white, that would tick off like all of the boxes for the sailor trend, because then you have kind of like a stripe going on, but then also that sailor color. I think that could be very cool, and the AQUA details also just make this pattern just a little bit more elevated. Then the big shawl collar or sailor collar also has some 2x2 ribbing, it seems, and I just think this is a very cool design, and unlike anything that I've ever seen before, I think something with a collar is always very interesting and just a nice way to make a stockinette pattern just a little bit more elevated and fun. So those were all of the fashion trends and knitting patterns that I've chosen for this video. I really hope that you enjoyed. Please let me know in the comments which trend you think is your favorite and that you would actually wear in your day-to-day life. I think for me, you probably guessed it, but it's probably the bohemian romance or romantic chic bohemian style. I just love that style and it's very dear to me and also super fun to knit. So I hope you enjoyed this video. For now, I wish you all a very happy day, happy knitting, and I hope to see you next time. Bye bye!